What is up, my friends? It is your host, Nick Anderson, also known as Amongst the Whiskey. And today, we're going to be doing a deep dive on Glen Scotia 18, joined by the whiskey legend himself, Tim Andrews.
Great to see you, man.
Thanks for hopping on.
Happy to. And happy to discuss this whiskey. One of my favorites. Really excited to see what you think about it.
Glen Scotia 18. You know, this is Amongst the Whiskey with an E, so you know I had to bring in the heavy hitter malt man himself to cover a Campbeltown single malt Scotch whiskey. No E.
So I have to ask you real quick.
Shoot.
Where did this come from?
Glen Scotia 18 arrived at my doorstep, and I didn't even ask for it. Sometimes, in the whiskey review world, people get your address and whiskey just ends up at your door. Is that not normal for people?
That's not normal. I had to order this, not quite overnight, but damn near close from London. So you live in a magical universe with which I am not familiar.
I do enjoy that bit of magical universe. That doesn't push me into any territory in which I am going to unnaturally recommend Glen Scotia. I'm going to open the bottle and find out what's inside it.
Honesty above all.
That is the Amongst the Whiskey editorial policy at work.
Love it.
At least 3 tastings and a honest rating scale on a 5-point distribution, and the middle of that rating scale is an average whiskey.
None of these minimum 90-point Parker reviews?
None of those.
Okay.
I despise that rating scale.
The world needs fewer of those. It already has enough.
Yes. What's the point of the rest of that scale, Tim? Why do we have a 100-point scale if you only use the last 10 numbers on it?
When a 90-pointer is undrinkable, I don't know what you're even writing anymore. That makes no sense to me. Yeah.
So, Tim, for our wonderful viewers at home, please give us a little background on your whiskey journey, whether with an E or without an E.
Oh, it's long, varied, and a little boring, I think. But it has definitely gotten more interesting in the last few years. I've been into whiskey in general for about 20 years now. Early 2000s is when I first got into it. And like so many of us, my first exposure to it was Jameson and Johnny Walker.
Classic.
Hard to get more classic than that, really. For many years, Johnny Walker Blue was my end-all, be-all unicorn whiskey that I thought I would never get to have, never get to try. It was unattainable until I had it and thought, wow, this is pretty good. Working in the restaurant world all through college, I got to try a variety of wines, whiskeys, spirits, everything. And that definitely opened my eyes to some of the variety that was out there. Now, this was 2006, 2007 now, so we hadn't yet entered the whiskey boom that we are in right now,
right,
with respect to, distillery on every street corner, special releases once a week, all the craziness that's going on. But a lot of the standard release bottlings were really, really good. And that really got me going with, that's the first time I tried things like Kalila, Balvenie. But up till then, my American whiskey experience was pretty limited.
Okay.
Basic bourbons, but at the time, really didn't know much about bourbon, American whiskey in general. I'd had some rye whiskey that was fine, but malts were really where I started. Then, of course, like everyone else in the late 2000s, I fell into the bourbon black hole and started getting sucked in.
Drug.
Oh, God. I remember many afternoons spent hunting for Dusties on shelves back in 2008, 2009. Sadly, we got to it a little too late, but still managed to find a few.
Yeah, that wasn't past prime for the Dusty hunting era.
I think being so close to the Nova area where I am, you got people who found it a lot faster than we did. And but in any event, that was, 2010 was the first time I had George T. Stagg and, Pappy 15 and things like that. And so that just took me in an entirely different direction.
Oh, yeah.
Really showed me, okay, There is a lot more to whiskey now. And so since then, I've really just I've been trying to find the best whiskey for me, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Because everybody's palate is different. And when somebody says X is the best whiskey, I say, for who? For you,
Yeah.
maybe me. I don't know. We'll see. But in any event, over the last few years, through individuals such as yourself, some mutual friends of ours, and others who've been very generous, I have been able to not just expand my whiskey palate, but expand my both appreciation, knowledge, enjoyment of whiskey in general over the last 5 years or so. So it's been a long journey, and I have really enjoyed the hell out of it, and I can't wait to see what the next few years is going to bring.
Absolutely. This community that gets built around whiskey is unmatched. We met through Whisky Legends, a wonderfully eclectic group of individuals. Tell us a little bit about what the Whisky Legends is. You can see this is Whisky Legends with no E, but we do drink whiskey with E occasionally.
Oh,
Walk us through
I
what a
think
tasting might look like.
we've dabbled in whiskey with an E a few times, I think. There are a few of our mutual friends who have accumulated collections over the decades, in all cases, really. The likes of which you don't see outside of places like Jack Rose here in DC and other absolutely insane whiskey bars.
Or
Collections.
museums.
Yeah, museums, collections north of 900 bottles. And with these guys, they're not sitting on a dozen cases of Jack Daniel's Standard or Jim Beam or something. They're sitting on. Oh well, I take it back. Some of them are sitting on Jim Beam. It's just Jim Beam from the 30s.
Yeah,
So
early 1900s Jim Beam
right.
is a different brand altogether.
But these guys have been so monstrously generous, and not just with their whiskey, with their friendship, their time, their hospitality. And I love what you said there, the community. This whiskey journey that I've been on, if it were just the whiskey, it would be wonderful. It would be fine. I would really appreciate it and enjoy it. But it would not. It would be infinitesimally small compared to what it is with the community.
Mm-hmm.
And I am forever grateful, constantly doing my best to express that gratitude to our mutual friends and really just give back as much as I can from my paltry, very paltry collection.
No, well said. And I'm eternally grateful for the doors that have opened as well, right? The opportunity to taste some malts that I would have probably never explored on my own. I love Irish whiskey, but never really delved into the single malt Scotch world as a longtime Irish whiskey fan that then bloomed into bourbon and rye.
Right.
I feel like I'm on the last end of this character arc that includes all whiskeys.
You're just now entering your villain era.
This is definitely my villain era. I'm on Amongst the Whiskey with an E reviewing malts.
Oh God. Yeah, but just to say one more thing, there was that tasting in Virginia that you and I went to, where we were fortunate enough, just because of these mutual friends, to receive the invite. And as you very well said, you wouldn't even know these existed.
Yeah.
Whiskeys from the early 1900s, 19-teens, 1920s, and so on and so forth. I had never heard of them. Yeah. Didn't know they existed, let alone that they were some of the most incredibly nuanced, beautiful, delicate distillate that's ever existed.
Yeah.
So yeah, here's to that community.
Yeah. Like, who gets to taste those?
Right. It's definitely a treat, and it's one that the older I get, the more I appreciate, and then just try to give back, and not just give back, but to give to the people around me who maybe don't know these individuals, but through me are receiving some of their generosity. For instance, I was able to give my dad the dregs of that 36-year Colila single cask that I
Unbelievable
was given.
whiskey. Yeah.
And it's a 5 out of 5 on anyone's scale.
Yep.
And my father, the Baptist minister, got to try it, which that was never on his bucket list.
Oh,
So
I love it.
it's just the best.
That's a re-gift that doesn't suck.
Perfectly said, as always. Perfectly said.
Oh my goodness. So we are here to discuss the Glen Scotia 18 specifically. I really am interested to hear your thoughts on this. I think given what you said, you are uniquely qualified to taste this, offer your thoughts. I'm really interested on kind of what your experience with this historically has been and where this glass is taking you today.
Yeah, Glen Scotia is one of my favorite distilleries that I think flies under the radar a little bit.
Interesting.
It's one of the 3 active Campbeltown distilleries alongside Glengyle and Springbank, and people obviously, your Kilkerran, your Hazelburn, your Springbank, all those sexy whiskeys.
Yeah.
They're really good. They're famous for a reason. I'm not
Right.
disparaging anyone there. But then along comes Glen Scotia and says, "Hey guys, I'm here too." I
Part
discovered
of the
Glen Scotia
conversation.
10, just their standard release, many years ago, and really enjoyed it. And then one of my local shops got the 15-year, and this was the 15-year release before they got bought by the Loch Lomond Group and did the rebrand and everything. I think that was 2014. In any event, I discovered them right around 2013, 2014, and that 15-year was selling for, I mean, it was a 15-year single malt whiskey bottled at 46%. That, I'm sorry, $70?
Steel.
Not just a steal. I was like, the first glass I had, I thought, I have discovered the perfect whiskey.
Oh, I love those ones.
It was
Especially
amazing.
on a budget price tag. That's incredible.
No, everything, it checked every box for me. It had the gorgeous oily coastal notes that you get from a spring bank. It had some of that gorgeous soft peat that you get. It had beautiful layers of fruit. I'm not going to say it was a perfect whiskey. But it's a 15-year-old single malt, and it was absolutely fantastic. And to their credit, even after the Loch Lomond Group bought them, they didn't jack up the price that much. And the last time I saw the 15-year on a shelf, I think it was $85, which over 10 years, that's not bad, especially with tariffs and everything like that. So Glen Scotia has been one of my favorite distilleries for a while now. And this 18-year specifically, a little more expensive. It's about double the price. Usually this comes in between 140 and 160. But that's still under the $10 per year range. It's an 18-year single malt, 46%, which is, in my opinion, better than your Balvinis and Lagavulins and things like that, which are all 43. And it just gives you magnificent depth, really, really well-built distillate, and then their cask selection is almost always impeccable. Every batch is different, obviously, but
Sure.
I've never had a Glen Scotia that I would send away. I'll say that.
How would you identify a batch on these? Is it the distiller's note? This one in particular says aromatic and spicy, or is there a number hidden somewhere?
So they just did a rebrand. Before the rebrand, I could tell you, but now I'm not sure. It might be the laser code on the bottom. No,
Ooh, I
that's
love
not
this.
there anymore.
It's like a treasure map. We got to read where X marks the spot on this thing.
Yeah, I'm not
Absolutely
sure.
gorgeous
That's
label. Though. I
a
love
really good question.
the gold
Um,
color here. Really nice seal up at the top.
yeah,
That's nice.
yeah. This is new, by the way. This was not always there.
Ah, part of the
That's why
rebrand. So
so. Yeah, exactly.
this
It's
is
part of the
recent.
rebrand. It is. I'm not sure if it was this year or last year that this specific bottling was done, but it is relatively new.
Not a lot
Um,
of price creep though. That's lovely to see, especially
yeah,
in the world of whiskey where it seems like everything's just going exponential.
yeah. There's very few distilleries that are keeping that practice alive. Glen Scotia being one. Old Forester, for instance, with their 1920, that $60 bottle that has remained between $60 and $70 for coming up on 10 years now. It's
Yeah.
just outstanding stuff. I love to see that. And for, I would say especially for guys like you, who you're not just a writer, you're an educator. And I
That too.
love those bottles because they allow educators like you to recommend and say, hey, this is a special bottle at this price. Maybe it's a little more than you normally spend, but I promise you it's worth every penny.
Opportunities like that are fantastic, especially when I have sometimes a free bottle that I get to regift.
I
Maybe it's a
seriously,
regift that doesn't suck.
I seriously need to figure out how to get on whatever list you're on where you randomly get bottles of whiskey showing up. That's
I see that. I just don't ask for these things. Like I don't know if it's too much pride or not enough time available. I don't go out of my way to ask for these, but like every week there's a pile of boxes on my
oh my God,
porch.
such a terrible existence you lead. Must be awful.
I'm glad I live in a great neighborhood because a porch pirate would have a field day at my house.
Oh just imagine they get mad. They're expecting
I
Blu-ray
wanted a new
players or
TV.
MP3 players or something like that. And you're like, damn it, another bottle of whiskey. Who is this guy?
Oh, you
Well,
touched on a really great point earlier, Tim, that I want to just circle back to. You said it was a perfect whiskey, and then you kind of walk back on that, and you're like, well, maybe it's not a perfect whiskey, but was it a perfect whiskey when you first discovered it?
oh no, I'm really glad you said that because I feel like there's many different forms. And if you disagree with me on this, I totally understand. But I
Sure.
think there's not a perfect whiskey is not a cookie cutter. It's not the same every time. A perfect
Hmm.
whiskey can look like many different things. I've had, through our mutual friends, perfect whiskeys that cost insane amounts of money,
Yeah.
and they were perfect. I could find no flaw in the distillate. Then I've had things like that initial Glen Scotia 15 that I mentioned, which when you spend $60 on a 15-year-old single malt, you're not expecting much.
Yeah.
You want your money's worth, but when you get double and triple your money's worth, and then you feel like you have just discovered, you know, the lost city of El Dorado in whiskey. You're like, what the hell is going on here? Where did this come from? How do people not know about this? Am I the only one? Am I weird?
Yeah.
Um, and so when I say it was perfect, I just meant between the depth of character that I found in the whiskey, the price point, which at the time and still is very approachable, the surprise, that fun factor, which I'm
Yeah.
sure you get. And then on top of it all, it wasn't a one-hit wonder. The next bottle of 15 I got was just as good. And then the
Yeah.
next one was just as good. And that consistency.
Hmm.
And then when I started trying other Glen Scotias, beyond the 10 and the 15, the Victoriana, the 18 year, and then some of their limited release stuff, it's always fun. It's always a blast. And it's always different,
Nice.
which it's not just a one note song, which I feel like other distilleries maybe can fall into that trap.
Yeah.
So that's what I meant by it was perfect. Again, it was perfect for me in that moment.
That's exactly why I asked it. And I think everybody is probably in a different phase of their own whiskey journey. And so you can kind of read between the lines when you hear people like us talking about this bottle. You can kind of place yourself somewhere in that timeline and understand, okay, does this feel like the right whiskey for me based on these descriptors?
Right. And you had said something before we started recording that really stuck with me because you mentioned you have another bottle that we were talking about you had tried out in the woods and it was cold and it didn't quite
Hmm.
hit the right way. But sometimes that being out in the cold is when it hits the best. Or
Might be the
sometimes
magic. Yeah.
you are sitting on that couch by the fire and you're like, you know what, I am going to pop that thing that I haven't opened yet. And suddenly you're in heaven. Or perfection can look like whatever you need in that moment.
Yeah.
And,
It can
and
be a
that's what I love about
perfection
whiskey.
in a moment too. It might be a one-time experience where that bottle is just immortalized in a specific memory and maybe you don't enjoy it as much when you go back to it and that's okay. You still have the memory of that perfect moment. That's what's more important than
Yeah.
the bottle being even consistent in my mind.
If you could indulge me for 1 second, and we can cut this if you want. What's your favorite whiskey memory?
Ooh, wow. Favorite whiskey memory. All time whiskey memory. Sitting on top of the hunting blind that me and my dad built out in the middle of a field where when you go up on the top of it, you can see the train running through town. And we had a bottle of Four Roses Limited up on the top. And it was not even my favorite Four Roses Limited. It was the Super Oaky batch that I wasn't crazy about. But the fact that we had that bottle in that spot, like, and we weren't hunting that day, we were just out there to enjoy the scenery, right, and
Yeah.
enjoy each other's company, and that bottle in particular on a beautifully sunny but crisp cold day in December. It was just the perfect day.
Oh gosh, that's so I feel like I was just transported to that blind with you, like just that crisp New England weather and
Yeah.
early December, like oh gosh, that does sound like heaven. That's a good memory.
Yeah,
That's a good
New
one.
England weather, I think, weaves its way through a lot of my whiskey journey. I'll use it
Yeah.
as a tasting descriptor and an aroma descriptor. Like, there's just so much experience in the woods to draw
Mm,
parallel from.
I love it. That's absolutely beautiful, man. Thank you for sharing that with me.
Yeah, I'm happy to. I'm curious to hear your favorite whiskey memory now.
Oh, mine was on the ferry coming back from Isla.
Ooh,
I went with a couple of buddies, and I was invited because this specific friend I was with, his brother was supposed to go with him and then passed away suddenly. And so he said, "Hey Tim, want to come to Scotland?" And I said, "Yes, I do." So we went, and we just had the best time. So on the ferry coming back from Isla, it's a long ferry ride. I think this one was 4 hours or something like that. So you're just, you got time to kill. And we went to the little bar area in the ferry because it's a Scottish ferry, so it has a bar.
it has a bar.
And we chatted with the bartender there a little bit, and eventually we were sipping the nicest whiskey they had there was the bog standard Talisker 10, which is fine whiskey, but
Sure.
it's not gonna win many awards. Um, in any event, we were just sipping on that slowly, maybe quarter ounce at a time, just really taking our time. And we just fell into a discussion, just talking about his brother, talking about our friendship, talking about life. And 3.5, 4 hours flew by.
Mm-hmm.
And it got to the point where that bartender eventually just said, "Guys, I've got to go check on some things. I'll just leave this here and just set the bottle down." Said,
Wow.
you guys have fun. Um, I'll see you guys in a bit." And so we did not abuse his hospitality. We went
Sure.
easy on it, but we did enjoy a few drams and just talked, cried a little bit, and it was it was one of those things that you're already good friends. He's my best friend. You're already so close with this person, and then suddenly you feel cemented in a way that transcends normal friendship. And so that Talisker 10 will always have a really special place in my heart.
God, that was beautiful, man. That was awesome. That's so fantastic. And you're right. It's the cement, right? The people are
Yeah.
what make it, but
Oh,
just that little bit of cement to just completely solidify the
yeah.
moment and unify people that we love through whiskey.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a reason why the first thing I think whenever I get a great bottle is I can't wait to share this with Dad.
Yep.
Yeah.
Always, always how you share it, who you share it with. That's right.
Yep.
Which is exactly why I wanted to have you on to taste through this Glen Scotia. Let's go.
Yeah. Let's start. Let's give the people what they want. We gotta dive into this now.
Tim, while you were talking about it, I put it to my nose, and the first thing I thought was just this beautiful combination of raspberries and chocolate. I'm like,
Mm.
wow, wow, wow. Come on, what's in this glass?
Um. So as I'm walking through it, mentally here, honey golden apples, raspberry chocolate, um, beautiful soft. It's not overbearing saltwater taffy. Just a lovely light sweetness that just dances through your nose. And
Yeah.
I think this is one of those cases where 46% is just about perfect for the character here. It doesn't need to be cask strength. Now that's
Mm.
just on the nose. Obviously, I haven't tasted this yet, but just based on that, you can.
I
Uh,
fully agree with that. There's a bottling proof that makes sense for every whiskey, and
mhm.
sometimes that's 46% for sure.
What are you getting tertiary notes as far as like towards the back of the nose with?
Yeah, some supporting roll, a little bit of a deep kind of almost a straw backbone.
Mhm.
There's a little bit, not in a profound or terrible way, but there's a little bit of like a nail polish thing
Oh
in
yes,
the very background. And it's
that
like,
so
it's so much experience I have being at a liquor store. That's one of my go-tos. That's right next to a nail salon. So that's like, those two are kind of ingrained in my mind together sometimes.
Yeah. So I will say that Glen Scotia classically does have just a touch of that chemical note that runs through it.
Hmm. Okay.
You either love it or you hate it. I happen to love it. And I think that's one of the reasons why Glen Scotia hasn't taken off the same way that the other Campbeltown distilleries. It can be a touch
Mm.
divisive. So that's why I'm really curious to get your thoughts on this.
So you described Glen Scotia at first as consistent, but it's also different. If you had to draw a parallel to one American distillery, what parallel would you draw for Glen Scotia?
Oh, wild turkey.
Okay, great minds think alike. That's already what I had in my mind.
Yeah, just a consistently producing really high quality distillate, but like I said, it's not a one note song. It doesn't,
Hmm.
you've got so many different expressions of the distillate with various, the different cask expressions, the ages, and everything like that. Wild Turkey has slowly become my favorite American distillery, and it's just the respect I have for what they're producing day in and day out is just off the charts.
Yeah. What do you think? You ready for a taste?
I am. I am. Let's dive in here.
Let's dive in.
That's Glen Scotia.
Okay. Solid mouthfeel. It
Hmm.
rolls almost, hits at the tip of the tongue with a little bit of a tingle, and then does this nice like, when you're sliding a spoon over the top of ice cream and it does that little
Rolls.
roll.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what the whiskey's doing. It's just rolling in the mouth.
Hmm.
That's
The Glen
nice.
the Glen Scotia viscosity is one of my favorite parts about it, because even when at the higher proof points, it retains that viscosity, that oily, gorgeous finish,
Hmm.
mouth coating. What are you? I know this is just getting started, getting the palate warmed up here, but what's really jumping out for you on the back palate specifically? I'm curious about this note.
I get almost a sugar cookie or like a dulled buttercream frosting, maybe like
Hmm.
a Swiss buttercream frosting that's like significantly lower in the sweetness.
Right, you nailed it. It's buttercream, but without the heavy sugar. It's all
Yeah,
the cream. You can tell it was sweet or something, but it doesn't have that syrupy sweetness to it.
right.
Um, and that you nailed it. I don't know how you did that. But you read my mind. That was exactly right. Wow.
I This isn't my first malt rodeo, folks.
Um, no, so because of the fact that this is mostly bourbon with, I believe this is a 12-month finish in Oloroso sherry. So it really does let the bourbon cask shine through,
Sure.
which I appreciate. It doesn't hide behind, a 10-year secondary maturation in sherry or
Mm,
something like that.
sure.
It elevates it, I think, the Oloroso finish, but it doesn't mask anything. You really do get the character, and with that, um, like I said, you do get some of that nail polish that you were talking about. But for me, I find that
Just a
all that
hint.
does is offset some of that sweetness we were talking about, and
Sure.
then also get some of. Are you? Not a trick question. Are you getting any of the saltiness, and not iodine like Isla salty, but like salted caramel, some of that coastal influence there?
Yeah, it's well integrated with the kind of creaminess. Like I don't get any of the prickle or surprise of the salt, but it's a supporting role. Yeah.
The
Like a
prickle,
salted
that's a good
caramel would
word.
be a good one.
Yeah, prickle. I like that. That's a good word. Because yeah, sometimes that saltiness can, you're like, okay, I'm eating a pretzel. Like,
Yeah.
it really overrides the whiskey there and kind of overshadows things. But um, this one I feel really does. As I think you used the perfect word there. It's integrated
Hmm.
really really well.
Yeah.
And it really does show off why I just appreciate what they're doing over there so much. Um,
Post sip nose definitely has a bit of a evolution to it too, and that's
mhm.
where the complexity factor for a whiskey
Yeah.
like this, not being a one trick pony, now it's taken on a little more of that bourbon characteristic. I'm getting a little newspaper, a light kind of black pepper, maybe a touch of allspice after the sip gets amplified in the glass.
How's the floral component coming out for you? It's pronounced for me, but
Distinct,
okay.
distinct, but not overbearing. Yeah.
Okay, yes, I would say I would agree. If we had to split hairs, what don't you like about it right now?
A lingering arc. I almost want it to evolve on the sip, and I understand that this is probably more the style of whiskey that's going to evolve with subsequent sips. And
Mm,
not every whiskey is going to be, the George T. Stagg monster powerhouse that does this like undulating boxing match over the duration of one sip, right? This
yeah,
is the kind of whiskey that gives you little hints as you go along. It teases out a couple new notes for you as you go from sip one to sip three, right?
right. It gives you the Timu version of that. It requires more sips, but
Yeah.
not everything can be the what was it? Was it that Moon Import Port Ellen that just the finish lasted for like a full minute?
Yeah.
Uh, it's it's not that, but I don't want to know how much that bottle of whiskey cost, and
Nor I.
I was able to, you know, without thinking too much, grab one of these. So
Yeah. But yeah, it's kind of it's a treadmill whiskey, right? On that first sip, it has some motion to it, but it's the same couple of things that keep coming back around.
right, right. It is still a standard release. It's not going to have the character or the nuance of a single cask.
Sure.
And I think that's fair. I think that's a fair criticism. One of the things that I'm not going to say gives me pause because I'm always going to buy this. If I see it, basically, if I'm in a store, unless I literally just bought a bottle, and sometimes even then, if I'm in a store and see this, I always just try to grab it because it's just very, very good. That being said, the one thing that will give me pause, the finish is a little bit shorter than I would like. Um, the viscosity is nice, but the finish on the palate doesn't always match the viscosity.
Yep.
And then, as you said, kind of with on the tongue, it doesn't really evolve that much. I can see myself if I were to host a tasting with this bottle. Well, I would want to give exactly one pour and then be done because you could get
Yeah.
a little bit bored with it a little too
Yeah.
easy,
Sure.
if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think it would do well to, highlight maybe the character of a bunch of different distilleries. But if you were going to be doing, a Glen Scotia experience, I think it's your one and done. It's part of a lineup, but it's not something that you revisit multiple times.
Right, exactly. All that said, I still really like this whiskey a
I did
lot.
too. Yeah, that first nosing experience put an instant
Mhm.
smile on my face. I knew I was going to be getting into something that, I would find some enjoyment out of, right?
Yeah. There's a wonderful Dunnage floor note on this for me as well, where some of that just Campbeltown funk and
Ooh,
some of that wet earth, wet hay is
hay
starting to
for
creep
sure. As
through.
I'm smelling late in this glass. Yeah,
And it really, It will evolve nicely. I'm not going to say it could. I don't think it has the balls to be a session dram that you sit with
Sure.
for 90 minutes. But could you sit with it for 45? I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. Um,
Yeah. I'm certainly not bored yet with how that is turning into that hay note, how it picked up more of the bourbon characteristic.
so based on your malt experience so far, what so far is this? What other malts are coming to mind as you're nosing and sipping this, if
Hmm.
any?
It's definitely nuanced. It's standing in its own lane. Um, Perhaps some parallels to like a Glenmorangie, uh, but it's its own thing.
Okay, no, that's a very fair answer, and I agree. It's Glen Scotia in general is distinct. I don't think it's like a lot of other distilleries. Glenmorangie was a good comparison, I think, as well, especially for the 18 year, because the Glenmo 18 and this roughly, I mean, within $50 of each other price wise, so
Sure.
not terribly different. This
Yep.
has slightly more ABV, but I would generally when I'm having Glenmo 18, I feel about it the same way that I just expressed this. It's
Sure.
beautiful,
Yep.
a little bit boring, but still
Hmm.
lovely whiskey.
Yeah. I was hoping a little more fruit would translate on the palate as I was finding on the nose. I kind of wanted that raspberry note to come through more on the palate. I think that would have made it a little more exciting for me.
No, I agree. The fruit is for some reason I'm finding it oddly muted this time
Hmm.
around. It's definitely present, but it's more of a stewed soft fruit that is overpowered by that saltiness, by the what's the other note I'm getting? Some of the buttercream that you were mentioning as well. Um, and I feel like
That's consistent. Yeah.
yeah,
Buttercream there.
and I feel like it's one of those. It's like a cake that has a little thin layer of like a fruit sauce or something, but then on top of that,
Yeah.
just a slab of buttercream. And
Yeah.
you're thinking like, could I get more of this raspberry jam or whatever this
Yeah.
is in
What's
the
this
middle?
jam in the middle? Can we like
Just
10x that
yeah,
ratio?
hey, bump that up just a little bit.
That's a perfect descriptor for that. I like that.
Yeah,
It's definitely that like cake layer, tiny layer of fruit, cake again, and then frosting. Just like
yes,
good luck
exactly.
finding the fruit in that.
Yeah. And hey, if you like cake, I mean, you're not going to be disappointed.
No, right.
Everybody loves cake.
Yeah. And I'm getting it more at this point in the tasting. I'm getting more of that saltiness now. It's becoming
Hmm.
more distinct on subsequent tastes. It is definitely, I think, like I said earlier, one that builds on sips.
Hmm.
It's one that you need to do. You can't go back and forth between this and something else and try to compare them. Like this just needs to be that stair step, sip, sip, sip to get to its full character, I think.
Yes. And that actually made me think of something else I wanted to bring up is you mentioned going between this and something else. If you were to go to something like anything above 50%, like any sort of cast strength whiskey, and then try to come back to this, this would taste like absolute water.
It's going to get
It would
dominated. Yeah.
annihilate your palate for this. This is one of those whiskeys that is clean palate. You're not coming into this after you've had George T. Stagg or something like that.
Yeah.
You're coming into this fresh, clean, appreciate the subtlety, appreciate the nuance, and then yeah, a dram or two, and then move on to something else. But that dram or two is still really, really nice.
Yeah.
What's your when you are looking at these whiskeys that this is so a 12-year finish in Oloroso, but otherwise 17 years in bourbon casks.
Yeah.
But what impresses me about this is how soft the bourbon cask influence is.
Yeah.
So for you as a bourbon guy, I'm not going to call you a bourbon bro because
Thank you.
I mean a little insulting. But as a bourbon guy, what do you, how do you interpret that? Like, how does your palate find that? Because I drink a lot more malt than American whiskey. And I think for you it's reversed. So how does your palate process 17 years in a bourbon cask?
How is it discovered? Like, if you were to give me this blind, do you think I would be able to find out that it was in a bourbon cask?
Right. Like, are there are are there any notes? Are there any specific like peaks, valleys, character, whatever it might be in the distillate with that much bourbon cask influence that would clue you in and say, "Oh man, this has been sitting in a bourbon cask for a while."
I think it's more dependent on the distillery. I think for the malt world in general, the cask type is like a secondary factor, which is
Uh,
completely backwards in bourbon
mm-hmm.
because you're going into new charred American oak at the
Right.
start with aging bourbon. You're getting a ton more of that extraction into that spirit. And so the extraction levels that you're getting out of these, a refill bourbon cask in the malt world, it's a lot harder to identify. But the notes that I would be looking for would be kind of any kind of vanilla tones, lignin, newspaper, black pepper, allspice, stuff that tells me that it's relatively youthful oak still,
Mm-hmm.
right? Obviously, it's going to depend on what distillery it came from the bourbon world too. Is it a Heaven Hill barrel, Jim Beam barrel, Wild Turkey, right? You think of the big producers exporting a lot of their barrels
Yeah.
because they already have the transport lines in place for their global brands that they're using.
And then, of course, like whether or not the barrel's been recharred or something
Yeah,
like that as well, some other treatment. Yeah.
yeah, there'll be a lot more X factors involved in how you get certain levels of extraction. But yeah, those are kind of some of the notes that I would look for if
Okay.
I were to be blind tasting this and think, oh, it's totally a bourbon cask. And I
Okay.
think we got some of that. I think we got on this early on, and maybe it was on early on the nose, some of that allspice, black pepper, newspaper.
No, I would agree. You mentioned newspaper right away, and I was trying to place it because I was getting like a dusty, dry, fibrous something, and I was going almost in the direction of like old linen, but newspaper
Linen,
pulled me
yeah,
right back.
yep.
So that nailed it for me. That was perfect.
Yeah, linen is a term that I've used to describe George T. Stagg and a ton of Heaven Hill products in the bourbon world. So
Yeah. So what after now? Well, I drank mine a lot faster than you did. Um,
I'm a very patient
you
taster.
are very
Most
patient. That is
most
true.
people are gonna be done with their glass before me, and I'm the person that's at a barrel pick on the first sample, and everyone else has picked the barrel.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and put just about a quarter ounce more into this glass. I generally don't have whiskey during the week, so I am splurging here.
I love it.
And
I appreciate you hopping on to offer me your thoughts on this particular malt because I felt outgunned. I felt outgunned by Glen Scotia.
well, I hope that you find it both enjoyable and approachable, and I hope that especially as we, that you and I will be at tastings in the future together, and I'm hoping that we can get some. I mean, Glen Scotia has been around since 1832. So I'm hoping that through our mutual benefactors, we might be able to scrounge up some Glen Scotia that's not just a standard release 18, but something that might be a bit more intriguing.
Uh,
Maybe do a little
I like
comparison in the
intriguing.
future.
Yeah, now that I have the baseline, I'm curious to see what else the distillery is capable of because I am quite pleased with what I'm finding in this glass.
Well, you got it for free, so you can't complain that much.
I can complain as much as I want, actually.
You know what? It's your show. You can complain as much as you want. That's true. Fair point.
No, really, at the end of the day, freebie bottle, gifted bottle does not matter to me. I'm always about what is inside that glass. I'm gonna taste to find out, and I recommend everybody to do the same. Right, your best weapon in the whiskey world is your tongue. Go in and taste whiskeys. Find out what you like. Find out the people that you agree with, the find out the people that you appreciate tasting with, even if you don't have the exact same taste buds. There's people that you just enjoy drinking with, right?
Absolutely. That's one I love drinking with you. I love drinking with Ted because Ted and I don't agree on anything.
Really? Do tell. Do
No, no,
tell.
no.
How is
It's fantastic. Every time we're at a tasting, I'll pick up a glass and go, "Oh wow, this is absolutely beautiful, divine whiskey." And Ted's over there retching into
I
a.
hate it.
Oh God, this is the worst thing I've ever had in my life. And then he comes up and is like, "Oh wow, Tim, have you tried this one yet?" And then I'm the one retching into the garbage. Like it's literally yin and yang, 180-degree difference. But that's why I love drinking with him. I love tasting with him.
Exactly.
It's just the best.
You'd love to compare notes at the end of a tasting too, and just like look at the ebb and flow of experiences and how they yin and yang, as you said.
Yes, absolutely. And then not to blow smoke, but I really do. When you and I are tasting this together, I love getting your insights because your vocabulary, your ability to dissect, and not just in a clinical way, but in a complimentary way, is a lot of fun to both listen to, and then to once in a while I'll just throw out a word and I'll feel accomplished when I get either a Nick thumbs up or a Nick going, "What are you talking about?" And then I go hang out in the bathroom and hide and shame for a little while.
Did you just invent that word? Like,
It's like, how can a whiskey
No.
be recalcitrant? You just made that up. Go sit in the corner.
That's a great adjective. That's a wonderful adjective for whiskey. And that comes from experience too, right? That comes from you putting your palate to work on things that are other than whiskey. Sometimes you have to stick your nose in a bundle of, dry, rotting leaves to just remember what that smells like, right?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
that's decay. That's what's happening in the inside of a whiskey barrel, right? Sometimes there's whiskeys that smell like that fragrant, earthy smell of fall decay, right? That's just such
Yeah.
a beautiful aroma. You have to live that.
Yeah, I feel a little bit spoiled because most of my background is in wine. And so the wine world really, really prepared me very well for the whiskey world. But
Absolutely.
that being said, when I talk to people about tastings, they always say the same thing. "Oh, I wouldn't know where to begin. I wouldn't know what to look for and all this." And I always tell them the same thing. When's the next time you're going to the grocery store?
Yeah.
Pick up a lemon, scratch it, play scratch and sniff with the fruit.
Yeah.
That's all you got to do. Maybe buy one or two of them so the manager doesn't get annoyed with you. But pick up things. Pick up the green beans. Smell the green
Absolutely.
beans. Take one and snap it. Go through that, because wine and whiskey, it's all just plant material to convert it into something we can drink. And so they're plants, just like the plants in the grocery store. And so all of those fragrances, all those flavors, there's nothing new under the sun. They all
Yep.
come from the same place. They all come from the earth. So that's how you really can educate yourself without spending money. Just go to the grocery store.
Agreed. I've bought things at the grocery store literally just to find out what they smell or taste like.
You're like, "I've never seen this fruit before. How much is this? All right, this is coming home with
I'm
me."
gonna find out. Yeah.
Yep.
And that's why also, to go back to my story from earlier, the woods and whiskey are so intertwined for me too, is there's so many parallels between the two and so many beautiful experiences that can be drawn from both. And I truly believe that whiskey is experiential. You can have an entire storyline. It's a book in a glass if you spend enough time with it and really pick it apart, find out where it takes you. Like, just sit with your eyes closed, nosing a glass. Where does it take you on earth? Like, you can go places with whiskey.
And just like you said, it's a book. And so with a book, where you read that book can make a ton of difference. And if you are, you keep coming back to the woods of New England, well, there is a state park about 3 hours from me and my wife, and it's our favorite place to go. We'll go up there for a weekend. They have these little cabins you can rent, but there's no cell service. You're in the middle of nowhere. And I remember I had bought a cheap bottle. It was a single cask, but it's relative. I think it was only like $50, a cheap bottle of Colila. And I went out there. We went up in late October, and the pine needles had dropped. There was a stack of wood drying, basically getting ready for the winter season, curing behind me.
Mm-hmm.
The wet leaves on the ground. Some of that like mushroomy, rotten, you know exactly what I'm talking about. As I'm sipping this briny, beautifully smoky whiskey, and you talk about the perfect environment to read that book. I have never spent so much time dissecting a cheap whiskey in my life because it was the perfect place to do it.
Yep.
And that's another really, really good whiskey memory for me, sitting on the porch, just enveloped by nature and entranced by a whiskey.
Yeah, that's a beautiful memory.
Mm.
Perfect space for it. That's me with Wild Turkey 101 up in the foothills of the Berkshires, where I go turkey hunting every year. It's like I don't need anything beyond that, right?
Hell yeah.
And I've had every wild turkey expression there probably is.
Oh, that reminds me. Just Sunday, I finally cracked one of their standard release 8-year statements that they did.
Yeah.
Holy crap, that sucker was amazing.
They're packing a lot of flavor into that one. Yeah.
They really are. I mean, it's not the best wild turkey I ever had,
for
but
sure.
for the price.
Yeah.
Man. Mm. Well, I'm really, really happy to see you enjoying this whiskey, especially considering it's one of my favorites.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I'm curious to see both what you do with it, and then as you try it again, where your opinion goes with it.
It's going to be a whole character arc that we're going to track. We're going to put pins on the map. Where is Nick on Glen Scotia today? How does he feel about it now?
How is he in the Himalayas with Glen Scotia?
Have whiskey will travel. Whiskey will take you places, and sometimes I will take whiskey places. Nothing better than hiking through the woods to a scenic spot for a dram. That's one of my favorite things to do.
Oh.
Ruck a bottle of whiskey to a really beautiful spot.
I've got a backpack hanging right here. It's got a slot that I'm pretty sure is for an umbrella, but it only ever holds a bottle of whiskey. And yeah, whenever I go hiking, actually, the last time I went on a hike, I got lost. It was in the mountains of West Virginia.
Oh, geez.
I thought I zigged when I should have zagged, and ended up miles off course. Thankfully, I eventually ran into a road and was just able to flag down a car and ask, where the hell am I?
Oh my gosh, that's legit lost.
Yeah, no, I literally had no idea where I was. It was fantastic. I loved it. It was just enough scary to be like, ooh, maybe I'll spend the night out here. This is going to be fun. And I didn't need food. I had a bottle of whiskey with me.
Yeah, that's right.
I was perfectly content. I'm like, who needs fire?
Yeah.
I've got fire water. Anyway.
Oh my gosh, it's those experiences, your spectacular wine palate, your long tenure in whiskey, those are the many reasons why I thoroughly enjoy your opinion on whiskey as well, Tim. Appreciate your time on this Glen Scotia. This was a fun dram. I'm happy with this.
I am too. I'm happy with how it showed up. I was a little worried. I actually haven't had the 18-year in a couple of years now, and so I was like, maybe I was fooling myself. Maybe it's not as good as I remember. Nope, it's as good as I remember, and it's absolutely wonderful. So thanks for having me on. This has been a lot of fun, and I like I said, I can't wait to see where you go with this one. Another malt in your quiver.
Well, I'm sure there will be more bottles of malt showing up on my doorstep, so I might have you back on to talk through those ones too.
Can't wait, man.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you for your time. Appreciate you hopping on and talking through this. That's going to do it for today, though. Until next time, friends, keep it amongst the whiskey.